All right, buddy. Well, this is our big week.
This is a big week. The week, it's May 18th, 2021. Welcome aboard.
We suspended it for a day.
Chattanooga week. Yeah, we did. It was a tease, right? It's like everybody thought what would they talk about this week?
Chat 70.3.
Thought we'd drag it on for, 24 hours so the 19 of you that listen to us could be on the edge of your seat and then forget that we do it, then probably not listen to us, so the race is over. But it is race week here. It's Chattanooga 70.3. You also got Ironman Tulsa this week. But welcome, Crushing Iron Podcast, and today is episode 478.
It is. And,
478.
I like to thank people last night, because it's taper for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, they got
hitting refresh on our podcast, and where the hell is it?
No one refreshes to see if our podcast is like. I know that makes us feel
special.
Like we like to think people were like antsy. Because someone did, I think it was Mark Hagan, one of our athletes, posted in the Crushing Iron group. He was like, tell us in one phrase that you're tapering without telling everyone you're tapering. And mine was, I think I'm going to go cut the grass again later today. Mm-hmm. That's like when I'm tapering, that yard work is like my thing. I'll basically walk up and down our street and be like, I see them. They look pretty good. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do them up one. I'm going to go and do this to my yard, and I'll just get some mulch. I'm going to rearrange the flower bed a little bit and just kind of upgrade the yard. But that's what tapering does crazy things to you, and we hope it's not doing crazy things to you. There is a whole lot of action this weekend all over. I think we're two of the biggest races, at least here in the U.S., and there's a lot of other smaller races going on too. Chattanooga 70.3 here in our town. With activities starting up in about 48 hours. And you got Ironman Tulsa, the inaugural Ironman Tulsa, happening on Sunday as well. It's going to be a busy week, but I hope you're having an awesome time. It's your first time tuning in. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general, so we know that your time is valuable, and giving that to us is, it's kind of like a gift, so we appreciate it. We cover all things triathlon and a whole lot of life. We'll sometimes go into swim, bike, run, detailed training topics. We'll go into overall training philosophy. We have a very popular How to Not Suck At, either swimming, cycling, or running series. A whole lot of How to Not Suck At Swimming. Go back in the archives. Mike does an awesome job of outlining those, giving good descriptions. And so you can pick and choose from 1 to 478, or you can just kind of go in order and do what you want. But we'll do race recaps. We'll do race previews. I know we'll talk about probably Chattanooga 70.3 a little bit this week, being here in our hometown about, 3 miles away from the hub. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, been doing this for 5 years. We come to you twice a week. We just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about life, about what we're going through in our own training, what our athletes are going through. Oftentimes, like last week, we'll hop into our closed group, which is on Facebook, a Crushing Iron group. If you want to be a part of that awesome community, you can answer one simple question. We'll let you right in. We did a Q&A session with them last week. That's it. We're just going to sit back and have that convo, and hopefully you can take something from it and apply it to your life. We are not professionals. I know that might come as a surprise. We are definitely not experts. We're just doing the same thing that most people do. We've just been doing it for a long time. I've been racing and coaching for 15 years. Mike's been doing it for going on 8, I believe. So we have experience. We've made probably all the mistakes you can make. So that's generally kind of what we try to do, is steer you away from it, give you a happy and healthy perspective on how you can and hopefully should approach training, so you can make it sustainable. Endurance sports is a demanding and oftentimes lonely and isolating sport, filled with expectations and pressure and an enormous amount of time. And so, but it can be an amazing experience that can really transform your life. And we hope that's what our podcast has just a little bit of piece to do with.
That was nice. Since I'm not doing Instagram anymore, I think it's a good idea for people to follow us now, because we felt a little hesitant about promoting Instagram, the C26 Triathlon Instagram page, because we sucked, and I was very intermittent. I sucked.
I mean, to be fair, I passed the buck to you when I escaped and left Instagram like 2.5 years ago. I was like, I can't do Instagram anymore. I'm gone.
Every month and a half, I'd throw up about 50 videos at once.
Call that pulsing, the commercial.
But now Summer's taking care of it. She's doing a great job. It's actually kind of interesting now.
Yeah, it is interesting. Is it? I mean, I'll take your word for it. I have no idea what's going to be. Yeah, we do.
So follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, C26_triathlon. Is that our?
Yeah, I think you probably find it by Crushing Iron or C26 Triathlon. Yeah, it's probably all over the interwebs.
Yeah, check it out and let us know what it looks like, because I don't have any idea. I just kind of take you guys' word for it and does it. But no, Shimmer's an awesome job of doing that. And among other things, we haven't revamped. We've added a lot of things to our website recently, including our hub and kind of condo package. We've got our hub here in Chattanooga, which we hope you come see. If you're in town for Chattanooga 70.3, either just visiting and spectating or obviously racing, we're at 1603 Fagan Street. On the bottom floor, you can park on the street. That's Chattanooga, Tennessee, 37408. Come by and see us. Check it out. We got gear. We got water bottles. We got hats. We got visors. And just a general good time. We'll have the Normatec boots out. We'll have the coffee rolling. We'll have a place to relax and just chill. So come on and see us and kind of get an idea what the hub does and what we have going on here. And as I mentioned before, we have on the website the kind of hub condo package, so you can check that out. We have everything you need to know about our coaching, our camps, our community. It's all there. It's C26Triathlon.com, and as I like to always call it, is our one-stop shop.
Yeah, check out our stable of coaches, actually.
It is a solid stable.
We've got 5, including you and I.
You stallion.
You and me.
You're a stallion.
We have 5 coaches now.
Component.
I'm definitely taking on a few more athletes here. So check it out. Go on there. Coffee review.
You're the stallion. I'm the pony.
Should we go into the podcast?
Dude, I think this is like a...
I know. We never do this.
Can I say this? Just can I be honest?
Yeah.
We almost feel like a legit podcast right now, because really that's what every podcast starts with. It's like, but before we get into our show, a word from our sponsors. And then 39 minutes later, they get back to you after they've sold you, 14 things they don't believe in. So go ahead.
Yeah, but we never do this really, but we've been...
we don't get paid for it. We can do whatever we want. So yeah, tell us about the coffee
that's kind of what I was saying in the
love,
podcast.
right?
We could do whatever we want today.
I mean, we always do that.
I just wanted to catch up because people have been sending us excellent coffees.
Like really, really good coffee.
Yeah, and today this
Brought
is
to you
one
by?
that I took upstairs and probably drank mostly on my own, but it was...
You did?
I did. Yeah, it's been sitting there, but at least I kept it. It's called Tala, T-A-L-A. Was that how you'd say that? Tala or
I don't know. I haven't seen the coffee you drank at all.
Right there.
It's all I'm going to see is the package. Yeah,
it's
Tala.
a sweet, beautiful
T-A-L-A,
coffees.
yeah. It's
very sweet,
great
and beautiful
packaging.
coffee. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
They have a wide range of coffees at talacoffeeroasters.com. Yes. We don't get paid for that, by the way.
Yeah, and if you're the other
co-host,
you don't get to drink it either. So
thanks for hooking us up. Anyway, let's roll into the podcast. I think I told you earlier I had my first solid week in about a year last week.
You told me this is your first uninterrupted 7-day-a-week training week that you've had in well over a year.
It was week 20 or week 1, I guess, of 20 week till Ironman Chattanooga. So I put in my first week and some doubles and the whole night. It was like a legit training week.
Oh, I know, because you 3 days last week, you were like, hey, I'm going to swim. I'm like, of course you are. You're pumping at me because I haven't done anything like a week.
Finally, I get to throw it back.
You do.
But yeah, so that was, I don't know. It makes a difference. And then, so yesterday was day 8, and I swam, and then I went for a run, like a short 30-minute run. It was the worst run I've had in probably 5 years.
That's how it goes, man.
I know. I wanted to just say that because I thought it would open up a topic here.
The more you do, the more opportunities you have for the bad sessions, and the more opportunities you have for the good sessions.
I mean, it was the worst.
Why?
I was super tired, for one.
And then why did you expect it to go good?
Well, but then, I was cleaning up my trunk and I found my old Brooks, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try those Brooks again.
Why'd you put the Brooks on?
I don't know.
My least
I've
favorite shoe.
done a couple Ironman in those shoes, and I'm like, you know what? They look kind of like mid-range between the Hoka and the Newton, and I'm like, I'm going to go in there and just, wow, man, it felt terrible.
Yeah, big mistake.
I don't remember them feeling that bad. They were probably just a little crusty.
Or you were just tired. I think that's listen, when this is one of my most favorite things to respond to with athletes, and they comment I don't know, today was just horrible. I don't know what's going on. And then they list out how their life has been the last 24 hours. I'm like, what the hell did you expect? You haven't slept. Your life is super stressful. It's 95 degrees outside. The humidity's 80. Did you expect to go out and run a blistering run and feel like, the fastest person on the planet? Then if you did, that's on you, because that's not really how it works. You're going to, and I think that's, especially this time of year. And, obviously, just as I predicted, it's going to be hot on Sunday. Like I said last week, it's going to be hot. It is. It looks like it's going to be toasty here on Sunday. But that's this time of year. Last week we were in hoodies and long pants, and then, this weekend's going to be like in the freaking low 90s, but that's how it goes. And this is always like an insanely difficult time for athletes to wrap their brain around mentally, because as smart as athletes are, they're also insanely inobjective. They just don't. You'll go an athlete. Athlete will go out for a run at 60 degrees and everything's perfect. And they slept great. And like, this feels incredible. I'm getting so fit. I love where I'm going. Literally the next day, 90 degrees, whatever. They run like late in the afternoon. They haven't eaten very well. They didn't. They just forgot their water again. And then, the humidity's around there. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I just don't know. Like, I think I'm getting slower. Like, maybe we should change. I'm like, do you not why can't people understand the effects that life and temperature and all these things have on your body? Like, there is no way around it. It's not something that we can control. It's just something you have to wrap your brain around, that you're not going to go from running 7.5 minute miles on a regular basis in the cool, beautiful, no dew point, no humidity temperatures in the South, and then the next week it's 90 and expect to run the same thing. Or if you do, your heart rate's going to be insanely high compared to what it usually is, and your RPE is going to be way up, and it's going to take you longer to recover. Like, that is why, as a coach, if I know specifically an athlete where they are through their comments and like, oh, it's hot, like it's gotten hot now, then for a lot of athletes, for about 2 weeks, especially if they're consistent, because that's the majority of our athletes are incredibly consistent, I really give them 2 fairly non-intense weeks. I give them like very little intensity at all. It's all zone 1, zone 2. And because of what I'm trying to do is allow them the opportunity to kind of get their brain wrapped around and let their body soak in, not being fully heat acclimated, but at least allow them to not burn themselves. Because that's what people do. Like, people get into like really, really hot temps the same way people do with altitude training. I'm gonna go to Colorado and do this altitude training, and then the first day they're there, they go and they try to run their normal pace, and they absolutely are smashed for like 5 days, right? If you're going to do it, and this is science, it's if you go and do altitude training, basically the first week and a half to 2 weeks needs to be like all super easy, relaxed training to get your body used to and acclimated so you can actually do the work and then get the benefit from it. Most people don't do that. They go up there and just crush it and they're smashed. The same thing goes for heat. Like, people are like, I want to get heat acclimated. Like, it takes a while to be heat acclimated. You have to do it repetitively for a long period of time for at least 2 weeks. And then you have to do it, habitually, like 4 to 5 times a week just to hold on to it. But people don't. They come out of the gate, they come flying, and they want to hold on to their, especially if they've been working hard, like the last, year and a half. For a lot of people, they've been super consistent. And then there's always joke about this in the fall, right? It's like we call it seasonal EPO. It's like you go from running in like this, the super hot conditions, it's super humid, super dew point, and all of a sudden you get one of these like perfect, like 60-degree days where you can feel fall coming. You come out of the gates and you run the best you've ever felt, right? And it's not because you just got fit overnight. It's because the temperature and the humidity and that, because that is stress. So you're doing your running and training with basically little to no stress, heat, altitude, whatever you want. You could use them kind of interchangeably. They change things, and that's just really hard for athletes to wrap their brain around. The same could be said for, like you were saying, like I was just tired, right? Like, and people like don't understand. Or they do. I think they all understand. They just forget it because we like to like only look at the forest, not like the entire picture. And you think like why did you expect that? You've worked out, for you've worked out 7 days in a row. Your longest streak in over a year. You were tired. You probably picked a shitty pair of shoes out of your trunk for no reason. And what did you expect to have? So instead of being like worst run I've had in like well over 5 years, you can be like, I got the run I probably deserved because I was super tired. Maybe not deserved, but that's the run I probably should have expected had I kind of, before I went out and ran, looked back at like the last 7 days, been like, are you tired? Yeah. Do you feel awesome? Not really. Ran a pair of shoes? Sure. Is this going to be an awesome run? Oh yeah, it is. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And but that's something that we never ever do as athletes.
Yeah, I suck.
Moral story.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like, I get like, man, I'm training for an Ironman. I could barely run 2 miles. That's like a really deflating situation. But as you're saying to this heat out, that reminded me of, and I have been swimming a lot, rehabbing, and I've been kind of dealing with some stuff in the shoulder, as you know, for years, at least it seems like
here
years.
We go.
No, but I was going to just make an analogy or a comparison between the heat acclimation, because I've been doing a lot of my work, and they have 2 pools at this Y, and one is more designated as a
Old person's pool.
old person rehab, deep end, like, and they do a lot of the water aerobics, which, by the way, that's going on all the time over there, and I'm very intrigued about being a water aerobics instructor because
Am I going to lose you? Are you going to turn in your
No, it's just on the
resignation in
side-
the next week or two?
side-
Be like,
side hustle,
Coach,
man.
Robbie, it's time to part ways. I feel like I found my calling. I'm
it's just
going to
like
be a water aerobics
because I'm doing
instructor.
a lot of these, like, running, and I'm just kind of watching, and I'm getting the biggest kick out of the instructor.
They
'Cause
probably
usually, like down those
they
slicks-
probably love it having you in there because they're probably a little bit older, right?
Yeah.
And they probably look at you and they're like, you got the little bit of gray fade going on in your hair, and they're looking at him like, you're probably like their George Clooney. They're like, you're probably the
I
water
get out
aerobics
every once in
lady
a
is
while
like
and go
George
pick up
Clooney.
some of those, weights, those foam weights.
Do
and I
some
kinda
curls
just, like,
on deck.
curling on the deck, and I always walk, have to walk between them.
Oh, of course you do.
Leave.
Oh, why not?
Walk on the towels, please, but I always slow it down.
Oh yeah, just kind of slow roll a little
No,
bit. Take your
point
hands and
being,
run it through your hair.
I like how, like, she has like one of those like stools, it's maybe like bar stooly type.
It's probably
thing.
like 95
and she
years
kinda
old.
like, for lack of a better word, it's like I feel like she has a top hat and she's doing sort of a vaudevillian kind of thing to like that's what's that Havana song or whatever. Anyway, I'm intrigued by that. But the point is that pool is warmer. It's got a warmer water temp in general, and I went into the lifeguards thing because I'm like, what is up? Is this pool 25 meters? She's like, no, it's just, but it's a slow pool. It's a slow pool.
Warmer pools or slower pools?
Yeah, and that's what
a
she
fact.
said. He goes, it's like, I'm like, well, how much slower? Because I asked him, I said, what, you're a good swimmer? She goes, yeah, I'm a sprinter.
Jogger.
Of course.
Yeah.
But she said, I'm 100. And I said, like, in 100, what's it? She goes, it can be a couple seconds, 2 to 3 seconds.
Easily.
Because we're warmer and you're not, it's the same type of concept. But I think a lot of people swim in warm pools, and I wonder if they think about that much, that it's actually really messing with your times.
So people, like, we always do this as just as humans. When we hear a word, we go to the extreme, right? Like when we hear the word stress, we think of, I'm losing my job, right? Or something like something extreme, right? That's going to like equate to a lot of stress. But what we often forget about as athletes is like little bits and pieces of stress accumulate to can be a huge event. Like you can have, you could have job loss or relationship problems or, an injury or anxiety. And that could be like one event of that could be, a 7 or an 8 on a scale of 1 to 10 for your stress. That can do not damage, but that can put you at a higher RPE, that can put you in a position to not have your best sessions, to probably need to take a day off because, as we say a lot, stress is stress. But at the same time, you can have like 4 or 5 or 6 smaller things that would be like maybe a 2 or a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10, but those accumulate to giving you what your total stress is for the day. You've got a run, you've got a ride, you've got a big meeting at work that's just kind of been consuming all your thoughts, and you really got to nail it. Because you're so stressed by that, you probably haven't eaten and drank a lot. Another stressor. It's hot outside. Another stressor. Your kids are, struggling with work because or struggling at school for some reason. Another stressor. They're not all 10s, but it's the accumulation of life. And if we're feeling a reminder, rewind on your own, Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, Tinder feed, this time last year, and understand how much stress can go on in a person's life. And as coaches, we are both reminded of this, on a absolute daily basis. I never have to wonder, I wonder how stressful life is, for the rest of the world, because you hear about it as a coach because you're the first person to hear. It all adds up, right? And then I think you hear about stress, about life and what's going on, things that are out of our control. But then we think about all the things that are under our control, like our expectations, right? And the things that we can't seem to shake, whether it's self-criticism, whether it's we always think we need to be doing better, and all it sounds like is stress. The stress that life is putting on us and the stress that we're putting on ourselves. That was an email I got last night from an athlete who was supposed to race this last weekend and ended up not doing it, and then has a bunch of unfortunate family things coming up, and she was like, I need to be flexible, and I just don't think, doing X, Y, and Z is probably the best right now, but I also don't want you to be disappointed. And I was like, okay, a couple things. One, life is hard, always, and it always tends to come in waves. It never comes in raindrops. It's not here's a little bit of it. It always seems to come in tsunami waves, 1, 2, 3, 4 things at once. Secondly, you'll never disappoint me, ever, unless, and I said this, you send me decaf coffee, and that's a conversation for a different day, but it's true. But thirdly, is like, you need to remember that life is insanely stressful. What we do should remove stress, right? Should not add to stress. And that doesn't mean, like you've always said, and it's like one of the first things you ever covered in our podcast was like, you believe, and I agree with you, that training should give you energy, right? But it's not just the training itself. It's not the actual like physical display or physical activity that you do that should give you stress. It's also how you're mentally and emotionally approaching racing or training. Is it with gigantic expectations? Is that you're stressed out, you're not going to make the cutoff time? Is it you have to, you're so worried about this? Like, those are added stressors that you don't need to be adding to yourself. Like, I had another athlete ask me about doing a 70.3 because of what was going on, like, with family and life. And I said, I'm not against it, because I generally believe that we can do it. But at the same time, don't sign up for it because of this. Because that's not what you want to do. That's not the why you want to take into a race, right? Mm-hmm. You want to go into a race feeling like I'm having fun, I'm enjoying this. This is going to add a benefit to my life in a positive way. It's going to challenge me in the right way. It's not going to fill a void. It's not going to distract me. While we've all used training as a distraction. Like, there are so many ways that we should at least be able to. We kind of had this conversation before we went live. Is like that we as adults who are experienced in life should be able to troubleshoot things. Like, should I really do this today? Like, should I really? And that's like, I've had very, very, very few injuries like that have laid me up for a long time over the course of like my 15-year, hobbyist triathlon, career. It's not because I'm some insanely durable, impenetrable athlete. It's because I generally feel like I'm pretty smart when it comes to like, I shouldn't do that. Like, or this doesn't feel good. I need to not do this. Or if it does hurt, like I was having those knee and IT band issue or the calf issues after trail camp, I was like, all right, this makes sense. Let's do this and get back to work. And then after, 3 or 4 weeks later, I was back ready to roll. We don't do that from a mental and emotional standpoint is reminding ourselves and being aggressive and offensive when it comes to what we need to be doing from a self-care standpoint, because our default is always, you just got to grit it out, right? You just have to absolutely grit it out. Another example, and then I'll shut up, was an athlete that emailed me on like last Wednesday or Thursday, and he was like, hey, I just, I felt like crap. I really didn't feel good, going to the bike ride. So I just skipped it. And then he was like, but when, this is a common question, right? For athletes, I'm sure you get this too, is like, but when should I, just grit through it and just do it? Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm going to keep this short, which I always do. It's like, save the gritting through for race day. Save that resilient, like, I need to like power through thought process for race day. Don't use it on a training day. Like, take the day off. Like, if you feel like you're going to have to put that much effort into just grinding out a session, you're just not going to get that much out of it, right? If you're having to struggle so much to just get through it, then the only thing you're providing that is of any benefit is the visual of having a workout completed. From a physical standpoint, you're going to probably accomplish nothing. And not just maybe accomplish nothing, that's the best you're going to accomplish. On the other end, worst case scenario is you're going to accomplish worse, which is digging yourself a hole, getting sick, creating an injury. Like, that's just things that you have to always, I think through as an athlete. But we live in a world where that is like the opposite of what is preached. Suck it up, be a man, grit it out, beat yesterday. And you're like, I don't even know what any of that means.
Well, I mean, that was the one thing I did right. It was a 30-minute run, and I only went 22 minutes because I was like, man, this just is. I was going to come back here. I was a little short. I was going to run around the block or what. I'm like, forget that, man. I feel like shit. So, but your point is like, it's like, I always think of that stuff like, and I've always been, or not always, been the last couple of years, been a David Goggins fan, and he's that guy where like you got to push through because you got to understand how it feels to hurt and the pain, and that's how you learn and all that stuff. But we got to understand, as a guy like that dude is just like, that's his mission, and he's 100% focused on it. So like, if he's tired, he's gonna figure out why he was tired, push through it, and I just feel like he's living a different lifestyle, than we are. Like, everything is based around having his body perform and mind perform at like ridiculous levels. And until you can flip that type of switch, you know, and get rid of regular life and all that.
Can I just say something?
What?
It's also his life is, and he's an incredible human being, an incredibly impressive individual that's done a whole lot of awesome things. But to the same extent, like, it's also all on video and all on camera. So like, how many days do you think that he honestly has like no desire to do anything at all, period, but still is like, I have to because I have to.
No, I get that.
Because this is what I have to portray. And to be honest, how sustainable is that for, I don't know, the 99.9% of human beings on this planet?
No, I totally agree. But I think was the point, is like, there's just certain people, he's created that lifestyle and that has become him. And then we, you know, tend to think like, you know, I mean, the first thing I thought of was like, when I laid out my plan, I've got 20 weeks to Ironman Chattanooga, and the first thing, and I nailed the whole week, and I'm like, I don't want to miss a day.
I'm
you
back,
know?
baby. Yep.
Yeah, it's like now it becomes that stressor becomes the red, right? So it's like, I almost feel like I need to get a red in there to kind of like take a load of that stress off, because like, if you're just thinking about that as perfection, that's silly. Because like, if I had let's say, I don't know, I was going to run a 10K or a half marathon next weekend, and I tried to run it yesterday, it would have been awful. But if I take this whole week off, I'll have probably a pretty good race. You know what I mean? Like, everybody gets like really, really worried about missing a day or something like that. And, you know,
a day doesn't mean anything in the scheme of things. Like, they talk about this all the time in professional sports, when teams are like, especially for basketball, right, or baseball, they go into the playoffs and they're just on like a 14-game win streak, or they go into the conference tournament and they lose, and they're like, that was the best thing that could happen to us.
Yeah.
Because now it's no longer about the streak, right? It's about winning the championship, which is all it should be about anyway, right? It's who cares what your win and loss record is during the season if you win the championship, because you know what? No one remembers that. They don't hang in the banner like, 2021 champions, Los Angeles Lakers, regular season record. Like, no, they just said who won, and that's how we should look at it as athletes. Is like, our championship, our playoffs is race day. And it's not about what your regular season looks like. You can't jump to conclusions, because we both know this, and we've seen this with athletes and work with athletes. Like, they can have the most perfect lead up imaginable, right? And you think they're going to destroy this race. And then they wake up, and I've had it before myself, and you wake up and you go race and you're like, I felt like absolute trash today. Does it mean your whole season was lost? No. Does it mean you did some good things? Sure. Move on to the next one. Move on to the next, playoff or championship game. The same could be said for, people who you feel like, man, this is, I don't know how this is going to go. And then go out and just absolutely surprise the world, right? That's what makes sport and our bodies so insanely awesome, is that you just don't know. As much as you want to predict, right? Even the professionals that do this for a living, that know more about their bodies than anybody, have all the sports scientists and whatever. It's like, you hear them so often say, like, what do they say? Just didn't have it today. Like, there's really no other, they don't give any other response. Like, well, my blood lactate was actually this today, and my HRV was this today, and I didn't expect that. They're like, I just didn't have it today. Like, that's not their excuse. That's the reason. I just didn't have it today. That's not just a training and racing thing. That's a day-to-day thing. It's like, I just didn't have it today, man. Like, sometimes we get off a podcast and I'm like, dude, I just didn't have it today. That was probably the worst podcast. I mean, I say it all the time. Like, I'm like, that was the worst podcast I've ever done. I just didn't have it today. But it's, so you can't look at those things like the streaks, right? I'm devastated that I missed it. You missed it for a reason, right? There was a good reason you missed it. Be okay with that, right? Like, be okay with it. And if you did, and here's the other thing, it's like, if you did miss it and you don't feel like it was a good reason, then why? Why did you miss it, right? If it wasn't because you're hurt, you just looked at your bike and thought, I just don't want to do this today, right? But if the result was you went out the next 4 days and had like your best 4 workouts, then the red, in my opinion, is a green, because it allowed for ultimate success the next 3 or 4 days. But you see so oftentimes athletes will just over obsess about, like, that's why I really wish like you could take away colors in Training Peaks, or I could just flip flop it every week and not tell them what it was gonna be. It's orange one week, yellow one week, purple one week, blue. Yeah. So it's not about like having like the green streak. It's like just being smart day after day after day, and being smart. Like, I feel like, again, and it's a societal human nature thing now. It's like, even read like a study last night that was like, people who work people working 55 hours a week are killing thousands of people a year because people are working so much, which has become like a bragging rights on this planet. It's like, oh, did I work? It's like, I can do it in like 4 hours of sleep, man. You're like, that sucks for you because that sounds like no way to live. But that's the way athletes, because we are human, we are, we pay attention to those kind of things. And then we just think that getting it done is winning, and it's not. It's doing things right and being smart that leads to winning, not just getting it done and being stubborn or losing your perspective or being irresponsible. Like, that's not winning. Doing it doesn't always winning. Sometimes the best thing you can ever do is take the day off and move on and have the best rest of the week.
I want to take you back a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Remember
how far?
Back to when my first race, Ironman year, and you were coaching me.
Yeah.
And midway through training, I forgot how many weeks away we were from the race, but remember we all sat down and had probably barbecue or whatever, and you're like, here's your next week's schedule, and it was all optional. It was like a week off.
I remember when that was.
Do you remember that as a good decision on your part? Or like, I remember being like, the first thought, because I can't remember how many, what were you, like 8 weeks out or 10 weeks or something?
Yeah, I remember exactly, which is odd.
You looked at our faces and we were all like just ready to cave.
I know. I remember it vividly, honestly, which is shocking because I don't remember a lot from back in those days. But what I said was that, and I said, this is going to be the hardest training week.
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly what I said. This is going to be the hardest training week you guys are ever going to have. And I remember looking at you guys, and you're like, oh my God, he's going to like crush us.
Last week sucked.
And I was like, yeah. And I was like, optional. Do whatever you want. And then, I think 2, you were like, I can do that. And the other 3 were like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't know. Like, this is going to, the point was not to, and I still do this to this day all the time with athletes, depending on where I feel like they are from how consistent they've been, like that's the thing is, you can't always be going up. You have to unload. Like, there is no always trending up in triathlon and training and endurance sports. You have to unload. Same thing as like every other sport, they have an off season. They still train. It just looks different. They're not playing 82 games. They're not playing 100 and something. Like, you have to have time to unload. And for athletes, it's not just a physical thing. It's a mental and emotional thing. And I usually do it because I do generally feel like we do a really, really good job of managing stress with athletes and applying. We're a minimal dose kind of coaching squad in that, we'll get the best out of you that we can, but we're not going to kill you. At the same time, when I usually give that, it's because, going back again to like the awesome quote that Daniel Reef gave, is like, when I see people getting a little too close to the fire, I remove the matches. And that is what you do with athletes in terms of they get so close and so focused on a big race that everything in your life revolves around racing, training, the big day, not missing things, and you tend to lose perspective. So a lot of times when I do that, it's to like get you to like lighten up a little bit, like just chill out for a little bit, like remember all the stuff you used to do back when you were like a normal functioning human and didn't obsess about, like
stuff you used to like to do.
Go out with your friends. And I think I remember telling you guys, it's like, go out with your friends and have a beer, have a lunch, like do things that you haven't done with these, go see family,
a beer,
go. Yeah. I mean, like a lot
back in the day
was a lot of beers. Like, just go, like feel what it's like to just know what balance is like and not be so singularly focused. And at the same time, it also allows for physical recovery because you're not going to do near as much. And you learn a lot about, people, right? During that phase, do they take the whole week off? And if they do, you're like, that tells you something. If they're still active a little bit a day, or what do they choose not to? It's like coaching is so much psychology in reading people and understanding people. It's not just about data. It's very little about that, honestly, but it's about how people react and the kind of reading between the lines. And that's why, sometimes I give, the athlete tape, I give optional stuff a lot because it tells me things, right? It tells me like, how are you really feeling? How much time management you have? It's like, you need to figure these things out on your own, because athletes will tell you whatever they think you want to hear. And that's how, especially people in Ironman training, it's like, give me more, because they feel like that's the ultimate answer, but it's not. It's give me what's right. And so, yeah, I vividly remember telling you guys, like, all right, week off, let's see what happens.
Well, that mental thing, that psychology part is like, I think that's really big deal, like especially during taper, because like you're saying, you got all this free time, and I remember vividly that year and the obsession with my race that I had, and how it just kind of like dominated every part of my brain, and how over the years I've learned to, like that week, especially, I like to get up to races a little bit early, like a day early, and settle in and just kind of go have lunch and hang out with people and not really obsess about workouts and thinking about I just like to kind of get off the course. And you always talk about taper week, just find a good new Netflix series and let your brain go somewhere else, because if you just constantly are pushing that, thought process into like, how am I going to race this race, and like constantly overthinking it and everything like that, I think you can't even be objective on race day. You start, you have all these predetermined solutions, and you can't step back from a problem and be like, well, I thought I was going to solve it this way, but I can't think of another way, whatever. You get kind of wrapped up in it. And I still remember like how nervous I was for that whole race, and how like just anxious, and couldn't sleep the night before. And I've talked about it before, but when I walked down to the swim start, something happened to me, and I just completely, like, it was almost like I let everything go. And all of a sudden I was the calmest, I had been in months. And because it was kind of like that walk the plank thing, is like, well, you can't turn back now. So really all that nervous energy that you've had, you just have to kind of channel it and use it as energy for moving today. And I think that's something that, is a great, I don't know how you figure that out or whatever, that if that's just like, through experience or whatever, but you can't let the nerves of the race like distract you from, or it's energy. So like you don't want to waste it, is what I'm getting at, by thinking about silly things or whatever. Just channel that stuff inward and just relax and let your body take over, because you've already done it. And it's like, you can't overthink, if you're going to jump in the water, wavy, choppy water for 2.5 miles, you can't like, think your way through the whole thing. You got to let go. You just got to, and the whole thing is just like, you've done it already. You should have. You've trained to this point. Just now you got to be like, let your subconscious take over and just like flow through the day,
I think it's such a great reminder to like go back and think about like the most exhausting days we've ever had as humans. And most of them are mental and emotionally draining. Like, 100%. And I think that's just like something that
they feel the worst.
They do. They feel
like if you work hard all day, you're like, I feel good. I'm not like stressed. I'm tired.
It gives you energy, right? And like it's like, I did something good. Like get moving. Like, they say movement is medicine. But it's like the days where you are so like you're mentally and emotionally stressed, or you're thinking you got so many things on your mind. You're worried about so much. You're anxious. You're depressed. Like it absolutely sucks the life out of you. And we oftentimes forget that. And that is so much it's not so much, but that is what so many athletes go into race week doing. They exhaust themselves physically, or not physically, emotionally, mentally. Like they have so many thoughts and expectations and worries and anxiety. I'm like, you're exhausting yourself. You aren't tapering. You are exhausting yourself from the chin up, and you're going to feel more drained than had you just had a happy 12-hour training week and then raced on it. Like that is what people love to like, not love, but they sometimes I feel like they do tend to just work themselves up into such a tizzy during race week about every single thing, which 99% of it is something you can't control. And it's the athletes who just think, I'm just going to get out there and do what I do. Like, it's not going to affect me. And then it's not going to affect me on race day, because if you don't want it to affect you on race day, then don't obsess about it for the 2 weeks before. Because if you do, it's going to affect you. And one way or the other, it's going to affect you. So now you're kind of giving away, you're showing your cards to the race day. He's like, hey, if this happens and this happens, so-and-so's race is over, because they're going to let it get to them, because that's all they've been thinking about for the last 2 weeks is what if this happens, and what if this happens, and what if this happens. It's never what if then this, right? I'll do this. It's always what if, okay, then the whole day is going to go to crap, right? It's always something negative. That's what everybody feels like. People fill their brain with negative thoughts, and like the worst case scenarios. They rarely ever envision, which is all you should do. Like the first time I ever did any kind of like meditation and visualizing things in sport was, I think I was like maybe 10 or 12, like when I was competitively swimming. And like the last week before a meet, one of our coaches would ask us, like we would stop practice like 20 minutes early, and we'd all go lay down. He'd turn he'd in like this main room at Maryland Farms, and he would turn all the lights off and say, all right, close your eyes. And now we're going to go through the whole day. And he would we'd close our eyes. We'd picture ourselves like walking up to the blocks. We'd picture ourselves, making a perfect start. We'd picture ourselves doing everything and having like our best race. And it was never always, all right, now we're going to picture having a false start and getting DQ'd and ruining your day. We're not going to have that. But that's what triathletes do. Like they don't rehearse the success and the greatness they could have and what the best possible outcome could be. They obsess and stress about every small thing, every degree in temperature that goes up, every increase in percentage that it might storm, or the wind miles per hour, or the humidity, or what time is it, or I need to be at the race start by 6:07. And if I'm not by 6:07, I'm not going to be the first 100 people in the water. I'm not going to be the first one in the water. Then be late in the bike and running my water bottle. And then I'm just not making hydration. Then things are going to fall apart. This is what it sounds like in triathlete's head during a race week. And you wonder why is this any fun? Like, is the stress of race week worth the fun you might have on race day? Because like it's about visualizing how great the day is going to be and enjoying that. Because if that's what you think about and you're positive, then you're not going to have these 19,000 negative scenarios you've been obsessing about for the last 2 weeks go through your head the morning of.
Mm-hmm. I've learned over the years that I'm very human and make mistakes. I've kind of agreed with that myself.
Yeah.
And you start. I just as you're talking there, I was thinking about like how, I guess, subconscious thoughts or things that you're worried about going into a race. Maybe say from a month out. Say it's something like I still don't know how to change a tire, and that's always the one we go back to. How that weighs on you in the background. All the way up to race day. And I was, it just happened to me with like my taxes. I always put them off to the end. And like for a month, I was like, man, I got to do my taxes. And I know that's like having an impact on my daily life in a weird sort of subtle way. And I think that we have to be prepared for that kind of stuff. And I think you're right. It's like, if those are the worries and whatever, what are you going to do? It's like we go into these races and 99.9% of us should not go into a race going, I got to get on that podium or whatever, because that just strips you right away. It's like, I think a lot of, obviously the tip top of the racers, they have a plan and they're, they've done it enough. They know exactly what they can do to execute, but they're not stressed about it, right? They're just expecting it. Like you're saying, they're visualizing it. And once you get to that point when you can start, and it's all about breakthroughs, right? Like you break certain thresholds and you can do it, and then you understand how to get there. It's just like actually doing an Ironman. Once you've done one, the next time you do it, the stress level is easily half, right? Because you just know you can do it. You've done it, you've been through it. So I think that's like how, the top three or the podium kind of thing happens, is like you just start breaking your way through these levels and you get there, and then it's not, so you don't have the like stress to do it. But like, so my point being here is that if you go into a race with like too high of expectations, that takes all the fun out of it and probably makes it feel worse, and it stresses you out, and you probably end up going to have either equal or lesser results. And I'm saying that firsthand because I do that a lot. So, and then as like before last year, I was just starting to kind of get a handle on like just how to race free and how that really can, make you race faster and really enjoy it more. And then, the pandemic hit, and now I've been like, struggling with it. But I get it now. It's sort of like you can't go in there with too high expectations. You can't go into workouts with too high expectations. Just like, why can't we just go and feel good and make the right decisions that make it, like you said, give it more energy, or not bog you down in general, because that's where the whole thing goes off the rails.
You can easily, in most scenarios, replace the word pressure with the word force.
Yeah.
And like I looked up the definition of pressure. The first one is continuous physical force exerted on or against an object by something in contact with it. The other one was the use of persuasion, influence, or intimidation to make someone do something. Like pressure it's stress, right? It's like, and I think I just have all this pressure. I'm like, from who, right? Like, who do you feel pressure from? Like, is it because and I ask this self myself, like, what do you have? Because I think sometimes we, whether we like to or not, we create so much of our own pressure. Like, who is really putting pressure on us to do something? It's usually like the way that we see things, or what we believe, or what we choose to hear, or what we want for ourselves, or the story. That's what all adds up to expectations and pressure, and those are huge stressors. Like you can't look at it as, I think I'm going to apply force to myself today. That doesn't sound like it's going to, that's stress, right? That's stress. And like, that's what pressure does to you. So when you go into these races, it's like, and I think that, again, like for a lot of athletes going into the early season races, like when you haven't raced in a year and a half, 2 years, it's like, what better time to go into a race with no expectations, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Than this one. Because you don't have that quick comparison card to go back and, well, I raced last month, so I kind of know what I got. You don't have any idea what you got, right?
On either end.
On either end. So it's like, this is the best it's going to get from a non-comparison standpoint, because most people haven't raced in such a long period of time that even if you wanted to compare, you have literally no idea how you're going to perform, because it's been such a long period of time. Whether you have the greatest training cycle ever or the worst training cycle ever, or life has been perfect or life has been terrible, you have no idea. So to just conjure up and expect and hope your way, because enemy isn't hope. It's like to expect yourself and put that pressure upon yourself to do this. And if you don't, it's a failure. Like, and even if you achieve it, where's the fun in that? Like, the fun is in the surprises. Like, no one walks into their house and expects a birthday party and walk in and they're like, oh my God, I was so shocked. Like, this is the greatest thing I've done. If you surprise someone, they're like, that was awesome. Like, I had no idea it was coming. Like, how great is that? If you expect, it's like, it's always going to be like, well, I thought you were going to invite Tim and Jen. Yeah. Why aren't they there? And I thought you were going to have, barbecue and beer. Like, why is there pizza? Like, you got what you expected, but it wasn't exactly what you expected. And anything less than that is a failure. And that is just how so many athletes see everything that they do. That was a conversation. We had an athlete come up from Arkansas for Thursday or Friday for swim help. And he was like, all right, I was like, dude, rewire. It's not success or fail, right? That's not how we do things. It's not about success or failure. It's about progress, right? That's like one of my favorite quotes in BNA is like, progress, not perfection. And so many people chase perfection and miss out on making any progress because they won't ever reach that perfection. So they quit, or they get so discouraged they want to stop, or they get burnt out. It's all about progress, and because progress is winning. Like, you're making progress, you're winning. And that's also why it seems so utterly impossible to achieve some things in life, because you want it to be perfect, and most people want it to be perfect overnight. Like he was, and this is such a typical athlete. Like, it was Brody, if you're listening, like, I said this to you, but he was like, all right, no, I think he started off swimming like 2 minutes, 2:05s, 2:10s in his pool, and we got him down to the 1:30s. He was like, all right. Now how do we get even faster? I was like, dude, slow your roll. I was like, we made some pretty drastic changes today. Now let's make them stick for a long period of time, and then we can come back and work. But that's always what we think. Like, well, that's not perfect. I need better. It needs to be better. It needs to be faster. It needs to be stronger. It needs to be quicker. And oh, by the way, I need it tomorrow. I need it right now. It's like, expectations are kind of like the triathlete during race week when they take their bike into a bike shop. I need new tires, new tubes. I actually probably need some new set of aero bars, a set of race wheels, the full tune-up, chain waxed, and some new cables. And you know what? Take your time. I don't really need it back till, I don't know, whatever. Tomorrow at 3 is fine. Just take your time. It's no big deal. No rush. Just tomorrow at 2. Perfect. Thanks. Because I got bike check in at 2:15. That is kind of like what most athletes do to themselves when it comes to the timeline on. Honestly, the timeline is the problem, right? The timeline that we put on ourselves to succeed this. What goals do you have for Q1 and Q2 and Q3? And what date? I rarely, because I have athletes that will put in like their own little goals in Training Peaks on the most random days ever. It's like it's like they went to Sunday Fun Day. They had a little too many beers. They put on a blindfold, spun around 7 times, and threw a dart. And they're like, June 13th. That's when I'm going to reach my goal of losing 20 pounds. And I'm like, is it though? Like, but here's the thing. If it's June 20th, was it a failure? Right? Or what are you going to do when it comes to June 10th and you have 4 more pounds to go? Are you going to crash diet, right, and try to lose those extra pounds in a very unhealthy, irresponsible, almost self-harming way just to hit that date? Because if you do, then you know what you're probably going to do the next day? Binge. Pizza, cookies, in the car, hiding it from people, walking upstairs, and that's what you're gonna. That's what you're gonna do. But that's instead of like, you know what? Let me move the goalposts. Athletes are absolutely terrified of moving the goalposts or just not having them, right? And not giving yourself that, like, I've got to make it here and I've got to make it then. It has to be on a rigid timeline, and that's not, it's just not feasible, and it's definitely not sustainable.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
You laughing at the cookies?
Yeah, I was just,
taking a walk down memory lane.
I was imagining myself in the trunk, looking around.
Seeing everybody's cookie. Yeah, you should go back. What was that, like 20 podcasts ago? Mike talked about his cookie binge. He like kept his cookies in his trunk,
so I wouldn't eat them.
Well, you did it in the worst time of year too, because now you do it and they're a little soft, right? Because it's a little bit warmer outside. They're almost like the perfect, like coming right out of the ovens, like coming out of the trunk.
I like them crispy.
I can't talk about that again. They will ruin our friendship.
Oh man!
We hope we didn't ruin the podcast for you by talking
about a self-esteem lowerer, man. If you're out sneaking cookies out of a trunk at
you
midnight,
dude, I know that feeling, man. It was like back when I used to drink. I did all kinds of things to get.
Well, people do that anyway, where they reach to the top shelf in the kitchen and eat the cookies at midnight. Like that weird thing. But I was just going I was going outside, and. Yeah,
everybody has, dude, I've been there for sure. Everybody has their something. Like, be honest. Listen to yourself right now. Look yourself in the mirror and say, yes, I go to the bathroom at least 6 times a day in public, not to pee or poop, but to look at my phone. That's what people do these days. Like, people are like, I gotta go to the bathroom. Like, that's the 5th time today. Well, what are you doing? And then you can hear like TikTok videos screaming from like the bathroom door when it's shut. I'm like, you're not even going to the bathroom. You're just literally playing on your phone. That's what people do these days. They go to the bathroom to use their phone.
All right, is that what they do? Hey, follow us on Instagram. Speaking of,
for more stories on TikTok videos in the bathroom, follow us on Instagram, C26 Triathlon. Like you mentioned previously, check out our website too. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, community, hub visits, the condo. Check it out. We have our Chattanooga camp that's over 50% full. That's at the end of July, early August. Here in Chattanooga, and so check that out. If you have any questions about camps, gear, hub visits, the condo, you can email c26operations@gmail.com. If you have any questions for Mike specifically about coaching or anything else, he is at crushingiron@gmail.com. If you have anything for me, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, I think that wraps it up, right?
Chattanooga 70.3 preview coming to you on Thursday.
Ooh, it's going to get saucy.
It is going to get saucy.
It's going to be hot.
Just like I predicted last week.
We'll be sitting in here just sweating.
That's right. We're trying to. We're getting heat coming this week. We have the AC off. We got the garage doors open.
Yeah. Well, we're going to spectate from the hotels.
You are?
No, I'm kidding.
Pedestrian bridge all day.
Like that's the 70.3. Like when there's a full, you can go back to the hotel and chill during the bike for a long time. But 70.3s are difficult to do that.
You can't. You can't go anywhere because if you have
you hardly have time to eat.
If you have one of the first athletes in the water, then you know what happens. Your last athlete's probably gonna get in the water an hour later,
right?
And then you got people coming off the bike. There really is no time. Like you have to pack snacks. You gotta be ready to go.
You got to be ready to
70.3 spectating is a zone 3 day.
We'll be both wearing tank tops.
I don't own a tank top.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
You have one.
Oh, yeah, I got my C26 tank top.
I've seen you running.
I'm not wearing that. I don't wear that in public.
Flexing.
Flexing, kind of like you flex on the YMCA pool deck for the senior swim ladies. I can picture it right now, doing your little strut.
Every once in a while when I'm doing my water running, I stop and do a few moves.
And if you want to see those
It's the
moves, come
simple
by and
things in
see us.
life,
Come by
man.
and see us
And
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You're probably the talk of the town at the local, Piccadilly buffet on, Fridays at 4 p.m.
I hope so.
Golden Corral, baby.
You got to feel good about yourself somehow.
Hey, whatever it takes, man. Whatever it
Piccadilly.
takes.
Where's Piccadilly? You might slide in there.
Yeah. See you on Thursday.
All right. See you, everybody.